Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, December 1st, 2023, and this is episode 821? No, it's 822 of Living Free in Tennessee. I wrote the wrong episode number in my show notes. So I've been wondering, guys, like on the live feed, I've like played music and not played music. What I notice is when I play the jingle on the live feed, and then turn it into an audio file, that the jingle sounds really crappy on the audio podcast. So I've just been sort of jumping in here without music this week because I just didn't like how that sounded last week. Anyway, welcome to the live stream. For those of you who are participating live, if you want to get a question in or a comment or have me give feedback on something or talk about anything, put the first word in all caps. Most people just write question, colon, and then the rest of their question. And welcome to the live feed, Pack Rat, Jen, Janet, White Bear 2, and Layla. Good to see you this morning. And I see that you're commenting. I don't know who else is here. Also, give us a like and click that bell button, and we'll help get the word out that we are live this Friday morning. You'll notice I am solo today. There is no Tactical Redneck. That's because his back is like all twisted and gross, and he went to the chiropractor. He's been going every day for an adjustment. Hello, AJ. And Food Force Farms, how's it going? The chiropractor just sees him for like 5 minutes once a day, and somehow it got scheduled on top of the show, probably because our most important homestead organizing tool is the week calendar that's on the wall that we write in on erasable pen on it. And that hasn't been on the wall for this week. So we basically don't know if we're coming or going. And in this case, we're going. The good news is that the self-leveling agent, which we have 2 pallets of, was delivered today while Tactical was here to tell them where to put it, which is great. Because I was going to actually not record this show at 9:30 this morning if it was not here already. Because what was going to happen is we were going to be recording and I was going to have to go outside. So I didn't want to repeat what happened on, I think it was Monday's show, where I was like, I got to get up and go deal with something because there's a delivery that requires a signature, something we almost never need around here. But there we are. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about today. I have got I've got some organizational issues. I actually barely made it in time with my show notes today because I got up this morning. I have an 8:00 call with Letty about next week's marketing focus, and I 4 things happened in the middle of the call. I'm like, sorry, Letty, I got to go do this or got to go do that. So we had an exciting call, but that kind of means everything's stacked up as done at the beginning of the day. So we're going to talk about just asking for help on the homestead, especially if you're a redneck. I wish he was here for this one. Escaping sheep and much needed rain. It's been a very good day this morning. We got a bunch of rain coming in. Yeah, chaos on the homestead. Absolutely, Jen. There was chaos today. Before we jump into our usual segments, I want to talk about our featured event of today's show, and it's happening this Sunday at 12 o'clock near Knoxville, where Strong Roots Resources is founded. You've got the quarterly homesteader gathering at Kerry Brown's place. If you're interested in checking that out, email him strongrootsresources@gmail.com, and he can give you more instructions. They like to have RSVPs for this so they know the head count, know how to be prepared. But it's a really great way to get to know fellow homesteaders and build your tribe, so to speak. Also, I want to thank our sponsor of today's show. First is Discount Mylar Bags. We've got that one coming in from Toby. Toby's been really supportive of the show for a very long time, and he sells me all my hollow roast bags. But he can help you figure out what kind of bags, what size of bags, how to store your food long-term and short-term. It's a passion of his to source things in bulk and pass on those savings to you. Find out more at discountmylarbags.com. Definitely let him know that I sent you if you head over there. Also, Agorist Tax Advice. Matthew Sursley has been supporting the show for almost a year now. I think his year anniversary is in 2 weeks. He was one of the first sponsors to jump on board when we launched our sponsorship program. And he has offered free consultations to LFTNers for a long time, but he decided, you know what? I've got something better. I can write you a guide on tax write-offs and how to track them and some things that can be really helpful to integrate into your life. And he has that free guide available for you at agoristaxadvice.com/LFTN, or there's a link in the show notes that takes you there. Definitely check that out. I downloaded it, and I'm also on his weekly email, and he sends out really cool tips every week. So I recommend if you are in business, thinking about being in business, or maybe have a side hustle, head over there, get on that email, get that download, and check out all the things that you can be using, taking advantage of in the tax code, because there is this much tax code written about how to pay taxes, and the rest is how to avoid paying taxes. And the less money you pay to them, the more money you keep in your pocket, and the more prosperity you can build into your life by keeping your cash. Finally, if you want to send me questions or feedback, and this is an audio show, and you're like, dang it, I missed the live feed. I wanted to be like Beth Emily and tell Nicole I really liked her braids today. Thanks, Beth. You can do it via email, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com, or go to livingfreeintennessee.com, click on contact, and those emails come straight to me. Anyway, yeah, AJ Harrison says legally avoid. That's right. Well, the cool thing about Matthew is his mind is very good at like taking multiple disparate things and putting them into one organization thing. And then he knows a lot about tax code and business structure. So he can be like, these are structural options for you. This is the advantage of different ones. This is, how you track those things, so that if you ever get audited, you can say, this is how I track those things. And then also he talks about, risks that are associated with that. I'm actually working with him right now to look at our structures and figure out the best way to move forward as we grow. And I like that he has a very holistic approach. It's pretty cool. And so anyway, if you're in business and how do I get started on figuring out the structure, it's a great place to go. And he also will let you know if he doesn't think he can work with you or bring you advantage. He'll be like, I don't think I can bring you advantage, so you might as well not hire me. And then you don't waste a bunch of money finding out, never mind, right? So, I mean, that's pretty cool too. I like somebody who's like, I want the value for value thing. Yep. Okay, our first segment of today's show is about forage. This is where we're finding the wild edibles that we integrate into our lives. I have an amazingly large collection of herbal tea sorts of things and remedies that I've gotten off the land this year. And unfortunately, I don't know where any of them are because they're all packed in boxes places. So every time we've had something come up, like you can probably tell I've had a cold all week, and mullein's really great for me in that scenario, and my dried mullein is MIA. Luckily, mullein is something in Tennessee that most of the year, well, all of the year, as long as it's not under snow, I've been able to find fresh mullein. The deal is when I'm sick, I don't necessarily want to go outside looking for the mullein, although a lot of times it's good for me to get outside and get fresh air. So I don't know where my mullein is, but luckily there's mullein right outside, and that's pretty cool. You can still get that. A lot of the things, because we've had some pretty cold temperatures, like I had the day where everything broke because it got frosted deeply, and we had our first frost flowers this week. If you don't know what a frost flower is, it's like the plants that die back still have water in them, and there's a couple of days, like there's one day and then the next one or two frosts where it freezes so much that the old dried out looking stems crack, and then what's inside sort of pushes out, and it's more of a gel than water, and so it looks like little flowers. And it's one of the things I look forward to every year. It's like the changing of the season is marked by Frost Flower Day. Our first Frost Flower Day was this week, which is a little later than usual. So we've had a relatively mild and warm fall in Tennessee this year. But we got our first frost flowers. I'm, like one deeper freeze will probably push out some more liquid, and then frost flowers are done for the year. I didn't even know what they were. Like in Oregon, I don't remember ever seeing them, but here it was like, what is this? This is really pretty on my morning walk, right? So that's pretty cool. Yeah, Jen says oregano and garlic honey ACV is my go-to. Yeah, I've been diffusing oregano oil just for respiratory reasons at night. Because I am sleeping back in my house right now and not in the camper. even though construction is still going on. Like the worst of the dust is done and mostly vacuumed up. And so with the increasing cold and there's no skirting around the camper, I can be warm in the camper at night, but I can be warmer in my house with the wood stove going. The wood stove is back in, that was big news this week. It's like, the wood stove is in. And for the first time in the history of the Holler homestead, my chimney is flush with the ceiling. It does not have a 2-inch gap. Like when they installed my chimney originally, they didn't make it flush with the ceiling. I don't know why. And there was just no good way to fix it. Like I asked Ken Esch to come out and fix it. He's like, we can do that. And this is what it's going to take to do that. Do you want to do that right now? And it was the middle of winter. And I was like, actually, I don't want to do that right now. Let's do it in the summer. And then when I realized that this whole project would come together and the wood stove would move, I was like, okay, well, I'm just having a new chimney installed somewhere else anyway, and I'll just suck it up. And then, I had a better contractor available to install the chimney, and it was installed properly, and it looks so much better. It always kind of looked janky the other way, even though it was safe and it was done, like it wasn't an issue. It just looked terrible. And that was sort of my early experiences on the homestead, was that I would hire professionals, and they would, like just do a crap job, or they disappear before the end of the job. And that's a real issue that you face when you're trying to get things done. And especially as a new homesteader, like you don't know the good contractors, and getting somebody to show up in the middle of nowhere is really hard. And then if they have an addiction problem, you pay them for part of the job, they may go on a bender that's amazing and never come back because they're embarrassed. And then you've got like this half done stuff. It's a real challenge, I think, everywhere, but particularly in rural settings, because your pool of available contractors is just less, and they've gotten away with it for a long time. So one of the coolest things about just the developing community that we have is we can give each other references. So like when I talk about Strong Roots Resources, when I talk about Ken Esch, when I talk about Ryan Steva and all these people who have helped here, and Nick Ferguson, like they've done real good work, and it's verifiable that they've done it. And that referral or that talent pool that we have, like Senior Chief Electric, all of it, you may have to wait for them, but they do good work, and you can trust their work. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's actually, I think, why the way the community's been doing like permablitz projects at each other's homes, like that turkey coop that got dried in over at Mike's house, he knows the work is done well because it's from our community. And so I love to see that has developed, because I wish I had that when I was first starting out homesteading. Instead, I made a lot of crummy decisions about who to hire, and I was on the road a lot to pay for the homestead rather than home homesteading. And so I wasn't even there to see or oversee what was going on. And a lot of BS got done here. A lot of BS, like a lot of why all of the construction project has been so major is we've been fixing decades worth of BS. And that's nice. It's actually pretty cool to have. I'm like, wow, I left my house for a while, and I came back and I went, and it didn't smell weird. And my house has smelled weird for 17 years that I've lived here. It's smelled weird. And a lot of that is related to BS that was done out there, over the first few decades of the house's life. And, it may happen that I have moisture problems again, because I will forever be built into a hillside, which is just a way to invite more moisture problems. And in Tennessee, we're really wet, so you just get it all. But at least I know we've done the best to eliminate issues with that and have moisture berries. Like my windows are not trimmed out right now because we noticed that there was, when it was cold outside and warm inside, there was condensation on the stone, which is the exterior of my home. And we realized that we have to have a moisture barrier there too for the windows, or else they will just eventually mildew and rot, and I'll have to replace all of the wood that we're putting in. So That doesn't mean we'll never get it done, but that was also part of the moisture problem. And that's, I've got let's see, 1, 2, 3 more windows to replace that I now know need that barrier in. And every little thing helps. Prepared citizens, welcome to the show. Welcome to the live stream. So back to forage, underground things. So your Jerusalem artichokes. I know our friends who do the Back to the Land Festival, Matt and Gabby, I think it's Homesteading for a Living is the name of their channel, unless they've changed it. They are selling Jerusalem artichokes right now that you can put in the ground and have your own Jerusalem artichokes. They will spread wildly wherever you put them. So if you put them in the middle of your garden, just think about what you're doing there. Ask me how I know. I've made all the homesteading mistakes, so you don't have to. It is possible to kill them back. I actually still have the occasional Jerusalem artichoke come up in my garden. But, over the years, I've just gotten them out and I moved them to a different place. The thing is, they're so aggressive that they will push other things out. So you can actually use that as a tool to have things not grow by putting the Jerusalem artichokes there. That said, if you don't thin them from time to time, they will choke themselves out. So that's another thing. They grow wild all over Tennessee. And we mentioned earlier in the fall when they were blooming, like mark where those are, because that's where you can dig the tubers. And tubers are our friends right now. If you know where there are the tiger lilies, right? Those are edible. The tubers are edible. This is the time of year you get them. Dandelion roots, this is the time of year to get them. Like all of those things. If you want to have sassafras root, the tree is starting to put its efforts down into the roots for overwinter rather than up to the leaves. So it's time to harvest the sassafras root instead of the sassafras leaves. All of that is underground right now. And it will be underground for a bit. So that is happening. And then wild game. That's right. Meat. It is time to harvest meat. And we've, Steve has gotten 2 or 3 deer at this point in the area. Other people are hunting deer, and then smaller game like squirrels and that sort of thing. They're running around right now. Busy, and cook it. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, Rachel, you're late, but welcome. Letty, welcome. Letty had a wild morning like I did because she was having a wild morning with me between the hour of 8 and 9 a.m. Okay, livestock is our next segment. Guys, remember, if you want to hear about anything on the homestead, just let me know in the comments. I am just doing our usual segments today, but if there's something specific you want to know about, I'll totally build that in. I have one thing that's not our typical thing. I got up on Wednesday morning and let my dogs out, and they get really excited to go outside and pee in the morning. And Chestnut, as she's getting older, has less control over her bladder. So I'm usually pretty excited to get Chestnut outside to pee first thing so she does not dribble inside. This is why you cannot have carpet in the country, in my opinion, if you have animals in your house. And I let them out, both of them. I don't usually let them both out at a time, but they both really wanted outside. And then galumping up my driveway come 2 large fluffy dogs whose heads come up to my waist. And it was Max and Miles, my livestock guardian dogs. The dogs that we've trained to kill canines and coyotes who get into the fence, who are after our sheep. Those dogs. Canine killing, fluffy, lovable, but canine killing dogs were at my house. Now, you have to understand, they haven't actually been on my property, but 2 other times when they got out and followed tactical home. Like, they don't work here. They work 0.2 of a mile away. And I was afraid I was going to lose my dogs because I didn't think that Cece or Chestnut was going to be able to fight them off. Maybe they could. Maybe Chestnut could. But like, these dogs outweigh them, and their instinct is to annihilate. And they have already annihilated coyotes. So, and there's 2 of them working together, and yeah, all of it. So luckily, I don't know if it's because they weren't in their pasture defending their sheep. They communicated to my dogs that they were dominant, but they did not snap or do anything that would trigger Chestnut to lose her mountain cur crap on them, because once you trigger the mountain cur, she's going to fight, and that's not good. but everybody's hackles were up. And so I was like trying to get my dogs in, and I've trained a big recall into Chestnut very aggressively, but it was not working because she was much more interested in the, and she was like, but mom, there's a threat out here. But mom, there's a threat out here. And yeah, pack rat, like a shotgun on legs. Exactly. And so Cece kind of got near with me, and then she kept wanting to go check it out. Chestnut starts coming towards me, and I walk out the door to get her like herded into my house. And all of a sudden, she's like, I have to protect mom because mom is now outside with these big, strange dogs. And I don't want, and so she like starts like amping up. And I'm like, I'm walking back in the house because obviously my presence out here is going to make the situation worse. And so I radioed down to Tactical and I said, hey, the livestock guardian dogs are here right now. My dogs are outside. When I walked outside, Chestnut started getting protective of me. I just need her in the house. And so maybe if you come up, because she's not as protective of you, you can get her in the house. And he walked up. Chestnut went in the house. And I was like, thank goodness. And then he grabbed both dogs and he said, come get Cece. I got Cece. Nobody got in a fight. Nobody died. And then I went back outside and, petted on the dogs that didn't, do anything I didn't want them to. And we brought them back to the sheep pasture, and the sheep had just gotten out. They had completely broken through the electric fence. And what was going on is that the grounding of the electric fence, because it's been so dry this fall, had pretty much worn out. And, well, not worn out, but it just wasn't delivering the kind of shock, like you could touch it. And that's not good. And the sheep are transitioning from fresh forage to hay and to whatever dry field hay they call it is in the pasture. But you know what? I heard that term for the first time like a year ago. They're like, are you feeding your sheep field hay? I'm like, what's field hay? And I was like, oh, you mean the dry grass that we leave behind in the fields? Okay, I get it. I just didn't know it was called that. It's kind of like tree hay is fodder trees. And so the sheep were out, and that meant that our whole day, the plan was new. And it was because they saw green grass on, the grass was greener on the other side of the fence, and they were driven by food because food will drive an animal. And they didn't eat the hay that they had. They just went over there and ate the stuff they wanted. So Tactical spent all day setting up a new paddock, which was sort of on the list, but not a hurry. But then it was a hurry. And our thing is, we're trying not to move them too much because we don't want them to be where they've been within 60 days of being there. That's part of how we manage for parasitic load. And if they just go through every 2 days on a paddock, then they're going to be somewhere within 60 days. And that's not what we want. So we've been putting hay in the field with them. And that worked. We did 3 lines of wire instead of 2 lines of wire, put it up. And then he was totally, by the way, if you're listening to my show and sending me text messages, stop. Because it's driving me crazy to hear that in the other room. I've had like 15 text messages come through, which usually means there's a group chat. And what I think is happening is somebody's dying. So just understand what you're doing to me emotionally when you send me that many text messages. That's my boundary. Anyway, he set up the paddock. We moved the sheep. We were like slowly pouring salt water where the grounding rods are. We have a 3rd grounding rod to go in. It's still not delivering much of a punch, and it was dark. And the dogs will stay in because they don't like getting shocked. And they just gotten out because the fence was ripped through by the sheep, or a deer, but probably the sheep. And anyway, we got him back in. And then the next morning he goes over and Cloudy was out again. And he's like, that's because it's not delivering a shock. I'm like, what are we going to do about that? And he's like, right now, nothing. Right now, nothing. And then like since then they've stayed in and they've started eating the hay. Now we are now going through hay much faster than we thought. And the bales we bought are not as tightly packed as last year. So I actually have identified another hay source so that we can buy more hay now in December rather than try to get it in March. So my goal is to get about another 40 to 60 bales of hay because they're going through a bale a day right now. That means that we have 40 days of food at the current rate of consumption. And that's not enough. That's not enough to get us through to where the grass is everything we need. So I'm going to get another 40 to 60 bales, get that loaded up in the barn. And yeah, that way we don't have to transition them to grain, because we don't want to have them on grain. But that was my LGD story. And so now every morning when I get up to let the dogs out, I like go outside by myself to see if anybody's coming glumping up the yard. But that being said, today it is raining on the homestead. And like, it's not like a heavy rain. It's just like a nice, gentle rain that's going to go for the next 2 or 3 days, which is exactly what we need to break the hydrophobic cycle in the soil, which we did already break near the grounding rods with about 15 gallons of water per one, which we have to carry up in 5-gallon containers because we don't have a water source up there. But it's nice because that will help us deliver a nice pack or nice pop to them. And then, then when the fence is working, it takes a much drive for the sheep to actually, go through the fence. Apparently, whoever is texting the crap out of me is not listening to my podcast right now, because it just continues to happen. And I'm like, I'm going to come back to 27 text messages on my phone after this show, which is overwhelming to it. I'm in a full ADHD meltdown right now, so I'm more sensitive to things. We'll talk about that as part of today's show too. We're going to talk about it a lot more on Monday. I do have a question in on the livestock topic, and this is, come on, show. Prepared Citizen says, I only have an acre and want some year-round meat source for my family. I'm thinking chickens and rabbits. What's your recommendation? It depends where you live and what you have time to take care of. Chickens are very easy, and they give you eggs and they give you meat, which is kind of nice. So I would say that, or another poultry-based thing like quail, which also give you eggs. They can take up a much smaller footprint. They start laying eggs about 6 weeks after they hatch, which is a faster time from little teeny bird to eggs. But the eggs are like tiny, so you're having like 4 little quail eggs to 1 chicken egg. And there's a special egg cracker, because the shells are harder on those, that I do recommend you get it and use it. You can get away with not using it, but it is like you can slap it with the back of a knife and it'll work too. You just have to learn how hard to hit it, because if you hit it too hard, you have a mess. So that's my thoughts on that. Rabbits are great if you can manage the manure. Now, the manure from your rabbit is really great for growing your garden. You can put it straight on your garden without composting it. So I love rabbits, but it took me years to decide I could manage rabbits. So definitely, I would say think about those. But if you're going to do one this year, just do one this year. So either add the quail or the chickens, or add the rabbits. Don't add them both at the same time, so that you can really hone down on how to take care of the animal, how to identify when it's sick or needs care, how to do the first aid. Can I process it and eat it? Also, like, how am I keeping its water from freezing all winter long? What does it look like cleaning up the poop? How am I managing the poop? If you're going to do chickens, you'll want to have a compost pile for that, and then take from the coop area or wherever to the compost pile. How good are they getting out of whatever I build to put them in? How do I make sure I do this without turning my entire acre into a mud slick? Like, all of those things are pretty important. And if it's your first time with any kind of livestock, just do one. If you've never processed, killed, eaten an animal, start by finding a homesteader that has that animal that you're thinking about. Like, if it's rabbits, find somebody with rabbits like me, or find somebody with chickens if it's chickens, or find somebody with quail if it's quail. Say, can you show me how to process these? Or go over there on processing day and help out. Process one, take it home, cook it, and eat it, and see how that goes. Because another big mistake I see homesteaders make is they get meat animals and then they can't process them emotionally, or their family refuses to eat them because, it was the cute rabbit last week or whatever. And The best way to find out about that is to try one first. Home-raised birds taste different than store birds. They have more flavor. I think it's better. Other people don't like it because they're used to soulless, flavorless, boneless, skinless chicken breasts. So make sure you're okay with that too. Rachel wants to know, did Tactical bail on you? He did bail on me. He scheduled his chiropractic appointment in the middle of this show for some reason. And it's probably because it was the only time they could. And his back is more important than my show. His back is more important than moving the gun safe out of my house. Right? So like all of those things. He's not doing heavy lifting right now. His back has been really tweaked for the last, I'd say, week or so. And he's been on light duty. A part of it is because my house is ripped up. And that means there's nowhere to sit that isn't bad for the back. So we've actually been working on that to the best of our ability here. And, you know, that really makes a difference. Yeah, Letty's talking, but I'm just making sure that I'm not missing a question while we were on a question. Rachel says, rabbit poop can be sold for people's gardens, or let the chicken scratch the poop for bugs. Yes, it can be sold. I use as much of ours as I can. In fact, right now, we're not harvesting it the way I'd like to. It's kind of just raining, getting rained on and into the land. And I need to talk to Tactical about what we're going to do about that, because I would like, it's like we have a temporary rabbit hutch right now due to a tree falling. And he has one like in parts, which means he's cut all the pieces and they're laying out flat to become a rabbit hutch, or like the new upgraded, better rabbit system. And I don't know when that's going to be done, but I'm not getting poop and I need poop for my garden. And I particularly like the rabbit poop. Like rabbit poop was a game changer for me this year in the garden. So yeah. Packrat said if the gun safe's got to be moved, he needs to schedule another appointment right after. He's not moving the gun safe. I have other people to help me. And the gun safe has already been moved. It was moved last night. So there you go. A lot of heavy things were moved last night, not by Tactical. One of the things that the LGDs escaping kind of sparked conversation-wise this year, as I was like, listen, you know, in the desert, people put up electric fences and managed to have them give a shock. So like, what do we need to do for this situation? And we started talking about improving the pasture with integrating some biochar and other stuff. Just having the grazers rotate through has improved the pasture, but it does not retain moisture very well. So that means that making the soil even better will help reduce this issue in our pasture. So I think we are going to try to integrate some biochar in some areas, and I've looked at different ways to do that. I will share that adventure as we get into that. Part of what really needs to be done with this pasture is some topography adjustments. This is a place where some like swales or something of that nature could really help. I'm trying to think of the word where you step down, and I can't remember what those things are called right now because I'm having podcaster brain. So when you think of the word I'm looking for, just scream it in the comments for me, please. And for those of you listening to the audio show, I know you're yelling it at your car window right now. But to change, like slow the water flow off the hill would be good. And the thing is, we don't own the property, and that would be a significant investment in a property we don't own that I'm just not willing to. It's not like I have a 20-year lease on this. Terracing. Thank you, Pat Rat. Yes, terracing. So it's sort of like beyond swales. It's more like terracing would be really great on this property. Thank you, Carl. Yes, terracing. And one day I hope this property will be for sale and we can buy it and we can do some things, but it is not right now and it may never be. So, you know, that's kind of like we have put some investment in there just because we're getting benefit for the sheep with it and benefit for our own schedules. But yeah, I don't know. If I get the property behind me, we're probably going to start shifting focus there on how we turn that into sheep habitat. And that will have some actual big scale projects that y'all will want to come out and see. Anyway, we have eggless birds right now, and that doesn't make sense to me because timeline wise, my chickens should be laying every day and they're not, and I don't know why. So they're either hiding their eggs somewhere, which there aren't a lot of places to hide them, or something else is up. So I'm taking a pretty good look at the nutrition, and we have very good feed that we give them. We also feed them table scraps. There are too many roosters right now, so it may be that. And then the ducks are doing the same thing. So I know like when there's less light, they lay less. But I usually, when I have young birds sort of coming to maturity right now, have eggs anyway. And we just don't. So with all of the chaos here, I haven't put a lot of attention to what's going on with the poultry. And that is all about to change. And hopefully in another 2 weeks, I'll tell you what's up with the eggs and what we've done about it. Next segment is harvest meals. This is where we talk about what we're cooking from the land. And the answer is I'm doing my best, but I just sent Tactical to the store to buy commercial food for the next 3 days because everything is out of my kitchen now. The stove and fridge are leaving my kitchen today. And so I was sort of on this. There's a group on Telegram that I'm in that just kind of helps encourage people to stay with their health journey. And I've been on the health journey for a while. And I was like, man, this is the next 3 days are high risk for me because emotionally, I'm going to want to emotion eat without access to the kitchen or anything like that. It's harder to keep the meal plan going. And if I get hungry, that's when I will make the worst decisions. And they were like, well, get the crock pot going. I'm like, yes, I can do that. It's going to be like on the ground somewhere outside at this point, if I want access to it. And that's not ideal. Like I have a crock pot meal going today, but after today, I'm cut off from everything for a while. And so I was looking for better ideas than that. So it's like, yes, I can make that work. I do have access to my Blackstone, but I haven't made breakfast sausage yet this year. And like, but there's lots of buts. And then somebody was like, you know, you got to figure out how to make this happen, Nicole. I was like, you know what? We're going to go to the store and we're going to buy pre-made hamburger patties. We're going to buy pre-made sausage patties, and we're going to get 3 tubes of ground pork so I can make a meatloaf out of the ground beef I have here. And I'm going to get that meatloaf made today so that it can bake somewhere else. And then I won't get hungry, and we'll have like all of the bases that we need to stay on plan. So I'll let you know how that goes next week. But that is not eating off the land, is it? I also have my final round of deer shins in the crock pot, and it's been going for about a day. It took a lot longer to cook than I thought it would. So I thought we'd have that stew yesterday. We didn't. And that's the stew we're going to have today. In fact, I'm going to go pull the meat off the bones, put it aside, put the bones back in the crock pot, let it go with some onions, and then get the final holler stew going for dinner tonight. And of course, we'll have that left over that we can reheat after the crock pot is unplugged. I also don't have a sink to clean dishes in. So like the thing about crock pot meals is you want to clean the crock pot too. And I'm not going to have access to a sink to do dishes for 3 days. So we're talking paper plates and, you know, I don't know, plasticware and all of that. I'm going to be pooping in a bucket, guys. I won't have access to a bathroom. So it's, by the way, by which I mean I'll be using the composting outhouse. I'm not that worried about it, but I'm also really glad it's not going to be super cold the next 3 days because it's going to be chilly in there. Very chilly in there. So that's our harvest meals. I cannot wait to get my kitchen back. That's going to be awesome. I also want to talk about what it's like to heat with wood. We have entered heating season here. And without my wood stove, I have no idea what my electric bill is going to be like, but I've been heating with the oil circulated heaters in here. I've got my HVAC out too. So like we're installing a mini split after all of this is done. Yeah, Rachel says crock pot liners are life-changing. Yep, I do have those, and you are right. They are. You can use those. I always forget to use them, but you can use those, and cleanup is way easier. Red Flyer Media can't wait to see my new improved kitchen. I'm going to do a little tour tonight of just where we're at right now in the house. So check that out later. But heating with wood is like, I've been cold for weeks with the electric heater set up. I don't know how y'all do it. Like, you must be cold all winter long. And we finally got the wood stove back in and we got the first fire going. And I was like, I am finally warm. I'm so happy that I'm finally warm that I am going to sleep in front of the wood stove tonight. And I did that night on an air mattress. And it's one of those things that takes time and it's messy, but the quality of heat that comes out is just phenomenal. So I've just had a low-grade fire going ever since. And I actually let it go out last night, though, because it got up to 76 degrees in my house yesterday. And we're getting up to 67 degrees today outside. And it's only dropping into the 50s tonight with the rain here. And I realized that if I keep the wood stove going, it's going to be 80 degrees in here before I know it. So I let the fire go out. But because I have a soapstone heater, it still radiates heat. So when I got up this morning, I touched it and it was still warm. And I had let the fire go out at like 10 o'clock last night. So that was really cool. The thing about heating with wood, though, is you need to remember to bring the wood to the house and all of those things. So it's a little bit more logistics. But it's also that time of year where, like, as soon as we get back into another cold snap and I have that wood stove going, I can take my coated Dutch oven, so the one with the porcelain coating, and put it on there. And instead of using electricity for the crock pot, it becomes my crock pot, and I can do slow cooked meals on top of the wood stove. And then I'm getting both the heat and I'm saving a little bit of electricity for cooking by cooking on my wood stove. So it turns into a multitasker. It's also way more secure because if the electricity goes out and you only have electric heat, what are you going to do? Right. So I really love it. Like, for me, it just makes me feel like more emotionally satisfied when there is a fire in the wood stove. And in fact, without any furniture in my living room now, what's happened is the camp chairs are in a little U around the wood stove. Like, that's where they ended up, because that's of course the focal point. The wood stove, it's the center of all things in your house. Some people think it's the kitchen. My wood stove transitions from the living room to the kitchen. So you sort of look at the kitchen, but you also look at the wood stove. And I just thought it was funny how that sort of naturally comes to happen with the wood stove. But having that is pretty awesome. And it just means, once a day I have to think, do I have enough firewood from the pile? Do I have enough firewood for the night? And then I do all of that and ready to go till the next day when I have to ask myself that same question again. And transitioning from not managing the wood stove to managing the wood stove at this point takes me about 2 days. Like, I will go through a couple of days of crap. It's dark out and I didn't get wood in. And then I'm like, okay, Nicole, stop doing that to yourself. At lunchtime, ask yourself that question, because it literally takes 5 minutes. It does not take that much time. But boy, if you have to do it after dark when it's cold, it's a lot less fun. Our next segment is Holler Neighbors and Community. Plus, we are coming towards the end of today's show. So if there is a question you want to get answered, throw it into the comments now so that we see it before the end of the show. Sometimes I get like right as we're ending, something will pop up and I'll be like, dang, I could have answered that, but we already signed off. Now, I'm in a full ADHD meltdown. What does that mean? Well, I've been very unsettled this fall, and I think it has showed in the show content. It's definitely shown in my life, and I don't like to share my drama one drama at a time. I think that invites more drama when you do that. And so while I will share with you the trials and tribulations of the homestead and I'm pretty honest about, or upfront is a better way to say it, about what's going on in my life, what I don't want to do is put my drama on you, the listener. So I haven't talked about this much, but I'm talking about it today because this is what happens. I am not diagnosed with ADHD, but we're all pretty sure I have it. They've been pretty sure I had that since I was in grade school. So we'll just never got an official diagnosis. And I've spent a lot of time learning ways to function well and prosper within the confines of how my mind works. And that's why I developed the My Three Things method. And the only thing that has me holding on to anything right now is listing my 3 things every day. on a piece of paper with a pen in my hand. From a productivity standpoint, objectively speaking, I would say I've been less productive for the last 4 weeks than I usually am. But I've gotten some things done, and I'm accepting that as a win. And the reason I'm in an ADHD meltdown is when there's chaos and things are ripped apart, the source of my rejuvenation is home. So having everything in my home messed up, ripped up, out of sorts, like the only way I even coped at all was the Glamper sort of was my surrogate home, but it's not home, right? And this is why when I go places, I tend to rent the same Airbnb over and over again, because it starts to feel like a place of rejuvenation because it's familiar. And with that going on, the one thing that community has brought for me that's been really awesome is the holler neighbors. Like, they understand and they're supportive of me. And one of them wanted to buy coffee for me this week. And I was like, instead of buying coffee, can you come help me do the final push here to get everything out of my house and deep clean and get it ready? Because what happens when I'm in an ADHD meltdown is a job like packing the rest of the stuff in my house, deep cleaning so that I can pour the leveling compound for my floor, let it dry, and then start working on the floor, seems insurmountable. And what's going on in my brain for that is that there are 27 and a half steps that have to be done to get that done, maybe 127. And I see each 127 step in my mind, and it freaks me out. Now, they are little steps, and if you take them one at a time, you actually get it done. But I don't see it as a whole thing. I see it as all of the things at once. And what has kept this moving forward for me is when I don't know what I'm supposed to do next, I do something. And sometimes something is take a bath and chill out. And sometimes something is I do something in there. Like yesterday, I started putting jars from one place to another in my home because they can't be out there because they are on the floor and nothing can be on the floor. So now they're on the floor in my office, which is this room, where I feel very unsettled because it's all boxes and things on the floor right now that are supposed to be put away out there that can't be, right? So that's been getting me through. But there's this thing called doubling, where when somebody else is there, they don't necessarily have to be doing anything, but just their presence helps you stay focused on what needs to be done, most importantly, which then the My Three Things helps me with too. And so I scheduled Tracy to come down here and help me get the rest of the stuff out. And we moved, and Nighthawk came and helped too. We moved everything out of here that was heavy. So like, you know, I mentioned the gun safe. That was the heaviest thing. Like the washer, the dryer, the gun safe, the table, the pump organ, that was heavy. Lots of things like that. And, you know, the redneck can't lift because of his back. So it was really great yesterday. It probably was only an hour that we worked on it, but almost everything else is the only thing left in here now is a refrigerator that's got to go out and a stove that's got to go out. And I only left, and the dishwasher has to come out. So I left the dishwasher in so I could do one last load of dishes last night, which will get put away right after this. And then the fridge and stove can go out right before we pour the leveling compound, and they're going to be the first things that come back in. I don't want my fridge out overnight below freezing because that can kill my fridge. So that's something I'm being really cognizant of. And we are now into full drive on the floor. And I think Tracy's coming back over tonight to help with like deep dust cleaning. That's the next phase, is because with the drywall, I haven't been like, I've vacuumed and stuff, but I've been through to wipe down all of the blinds and everything. And that dust will fall on the floor. And if the dust falls on the floor after the sealant is on the floor, it will stick in the sealant and be a speck of dust in my sealant that will piss me off for the rest of my life. So she's helping with the deep clean on that. And that doubling is really important. It's okay to be like me in an ADHD meltdown. When you realize you are, there are steps you can take to get through anyway, because really the solution to this meltdown is finish that project. That's it. finish that project. I'm hearing in my head Thad going, do less. I'm like, yes, I need to finish this project so that becomes a rejuvenation source again. And at nighttime, at the end of the day, after I've worked really hard, you know what I can do? I can rejuvenate in my own living room. I can spin wool again. Like, I can spin wool. The spinning wheel's right over there. But if I spend time spinning wool instead of finishing that project, I just delay. I just make longer the ADHD meltdown. So that's kind of what's going on in the background. That's why we haven't talked a lot about Christmas preparations, because I'm not adding anything right now while that's not done, because really all of my focus needs to be on that when I'm not producing coffee orders. I mean, that being said, of course, order your Christmas presents from hollowroast.com. Today is the last day to get free gift wrapping, and I won't ship them till after December 13th if you mark that on your order. So, definitely do that. But, once every day, once I'm caught up with orders, then I come back to here. If I've gotten my marketing done, I come back to here, because it's going to be better when it's done. Rachel says, I never mentioned it, but Mom's kitchen is torn up right now and she has to live there. My brother, her primary caregiver, and his wife had to jump plane to North Carolina for an emergency. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, a lot of people have stuff going on in their lives that we don't share a blow by blow. But sometimes it's probably important to say, like, this is why I'm acting funny. Just so you know, this is going on. This is what I'm doing to fix it. And it impacts the homestead a lot. It's why the ducks are not in duck jail yet. Like, last week, I had aspirations to help finish getting duck jail set up so that ducks are taken care of in duck jail. And then I was like, oh no, what I'm going to do is, to the best of my ability, deep clean out there, make sure everything's sealed up, so that tomorrow morning, first thing, or later today, whenever we can start mixing and pouring the self-leveling agent. Because once that's done, that's like the hardest part of the floor, by the way. Once that's done, I'm just skim coating. And skim coating can go as slow or as fast as I want. I do sort of need to commit to get the whole thing done, and then it needs to dry for, I think, 12 to 24 hours, and then I do the second coat. Once the second coat is done, I seal it. And then once that's dry, I can start moving back into my house. And I want it really dry. Like, when I did my wood floors over at the duplex, I was really happy nobody was living there, because I just let it go for a week to totally cure up, so that when things came in, they didn't scuff anything up. And that's where we go. So Rachel says, I just ordered patch of the month for my Christmas. Awesome. I didn't get any attic Christmas down last year. Nobody cared. Yeah, I have some decorations that will go up when the time comes, and when I know that they're actually just going up and not going to get taken out for this or that thing. Every time I paint more in my outer area, I see places that need, so like, everything will have been painted by the time it's done. I have a small gathering happening here in December, and by that time, my front door may not be painted, but it's going to get painted. So, but at this point, we have everything done, like all the walls, the ceiling, everything is done, so that paint isn't dripping on the floor. And that's why we did the painting before the floor. Plus, I had to wait till today for the self-leveling agent to get delivered. And I have 2 pallets outside under Taj Mahal ready to get mixed. So I'm looking forward to getting this done. The only thing I don't have that I wish I had, where they make these attachments for your shoes with little cleats, that if you need to walk over the self-leveling agent to go fix something that didn't quite go right across the room, and I'm doing 800 square feet, so that could happen. It's like you're walking on little needles, and it, if it's not dry yet, it just sort of, you don't disturb it a lot, and then it just sort of flows back in. And the fastest I can get those here is like, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks from now, and I'm not waiting 2 or 3 weeks. So hopefully I don't have to walk across the self-leveling agent. I did mean to get some really crappy rubber boots from Walmart, and I haven't done that yet. So depending on how long it takes us to get the floor ready, if we're not going to be pouring it tonight, which I'm skeptical about if we'll be pouring it tonight, I think we'll be pouring it at 9 tomorrow morning. I will head to Walmart tonight and buy a 20 or 30, they're probably $30 now because of inflation, set of rubber boots that I can walk on it if I have to. And then if if I have to go deal with something, at least I'm not ruining my tennis shoes, right? Or my muck boots, which are more expensive. I don't want to get self-leveling agent on my muck boots. So as much as I love my muck boots, I don't want to do that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did and you want to support the work I'm doing, get your Christmas gifts at hollowroast.com or order your coffee there. Consider becoming a member. Head over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more about that. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.